It's now my pleasure to introduce Bart Givens. Bart stepped up to take over the Diamond Awards Committee after Jack Kinney passed, so we're so very grateful for him to do that. And he will give us a little history on the Diamond Awards and why we're all gathered here today.
Got my notes here so I don't forget something here. So, welcome to Rotary. Today is a special day. We recognize two very special people who are the Diamond winners of Doherty and Coronado High School. You know, too often, teachers are underappreciated, underpaid, and not recognized for the outstanding work that they do in our schools and for the influence they have on individuals in that student body. You know, about 20 years ago, a member of our club, Jack Kinney, a teacher in his own right, saw this void in our community. And in true Rotary fashion and tradition, he took action. He came to the Service Fund Committee. I was a member at that time, and brought this proposal to us. And he said he wanted to recognize teachers, but he wanted to do it in a special way. It was going to be very unique. The teachers that were going to be nominated, only nominated by the students. The only involvement that the faculty and administration would have is to put the infrastructure together and a way for students to nominate and get their input. I was on the service committee at the time, and I recall heavy discussions around these things. Does it meet the funding guidelines? Does it meet the objectives of Rotary and the club? Does it pass the four-way test? Well, as the saying goes, the rest is history. Over the past 20-some years, the Rotary Club of Colorado Springs has recognized 110 outstanding teachers in District 11 who have positively influenced the lives of an immeasurable number of students with this Diamond, a cut above award. So thank you, Jack. Your legacy lives on. Let's hear it for Jack. Yeah. Serving on this committee is very meaningful to me because my mother was a teacher. She was third born in a family of 6 children and the first to graduate from high school. She obtained her teaching certificate from what was known at that time a normal school, whatever that meant. For the first few years, she taught multiple grades in one-room country schoolhouses. After marrying my father, she suspended her teaching career, and she was a devoted mother and farm wife. But she never lost her passion for teaching. To maintain her teaching certificate, she took correspondence courses and weekend off-campus courses and returned to teaching when I was about maybe 14 or 15. She earned her BA degree the same year that my youngest sister got her registered nursing degree. One of her teaching positions at the time was in a country school in the next county, about 10 miles to our west of the farm. One of her students was a shy 7-year-old girl whose family was drifting through looking for work and decided to temporarily settle in this little town of Newport, Nebraska. Fast forward, come 40 years later, this now long defunct district of Newport, Nebraska gets a letter from a woman in Florida searching for the teacher, her second or third grade teacher in a certain year. Somehow they found the records and the letter was forwarded to my mom. And my mom and Patty celebrated and enjoyed her friendship for the last 10 or 15 years of my mother's life. In 2004, Patty came from Florida all the way to this little town of Stuart, Nebraska, to my mother's funeral. And that, my friends, is a tribute to a teacher who was a cut above my mother. Yeah. I want to thank the committee for their hard work and time dedicated to selecting the 23-24 Diamond Award finalists. We began the year with 6 members strong, with Jack Kinney as the lead. Tom Nelson, Sky Forrester, Tina Dewey, Holly Flores, and myself. With the passing of Jack, Tom on a leave of absence, and Skylar's unfortunate stroke, we are now down to 3. So we're looking for more members. The committee reviewed 764 nominations of 175 teachers from 5 schools. Thank you, Tina and Holly, for your hard work. We also must thank Louisa Graff Jewelers and Louisa Graff personally, who for the past 20 years or so has installed a diamond and donated beautiful clocks for the diamond awardees. So now Tina and Holly introduce our awardees.
I am excited to be up here. I have the pleasure of presenting to the club Miss Brittany Ziak, who is an English teacher at Coronado High School. She teaches 10th and 11th graders, and reading these nominations, as Bart said, we read dozens, a few hundred nominations, and they're all over the place, right? You see some that kids, maybe there's a little bit of mandatory motivation, but then you see that you read those nominations where the teacher has really touched their students. And as I read Ms. Ziek's nominations, there were 3 things that really were the thread throughout. It was her compassion, her competence, and her accountability. And I want to share a couple expressions from her students to share with you guys what that exactly sounded like. Ms. Ziak is the best teacher I've ever had. She made me genuinely consider pushing aside my passion to become an English teacher just so I can be as cool as her. She is the textbook definition of a cool teacher. She's very intelligent in her expertise, and she makes it clear that she cares about what she teaches. Her class is the highlight of my day. Wait, there's more. You can tell by the eagerness in her voice and the constant encouragement for her students, no matter where their grade is in her class. With the obvious concern in her eyes and actions, she really made my days 10 times better. The methods that she gives us to learn better, to understand the material as best as possible, I know a lot of students in my class that struggle to learn the material, and she takes the time. Her teaching methods and her amazing ways of helping students are what stand out. And the last one that really stood out to me, but one student said, I'm heading towards a good future with a career and following my dreams because of her inspiration. She gives me advice for work or for school work, like assignments. So that really shows the compassion and the competence, because you slowed down the class when students had trouble learning. And they said, You weren't in a rush just to present the material, but you made sure that they understood it and made learning fun. The last one I added in there was accountability, and that's kind of music to my ears as a mom. I want my kids to be held accountable at school, and I know a lot of the other Rotarians in here would also second that and know how special that is in a teacher. And in one of the nominations that stood out to me, one of the students says, you know, when you didn't do your homework, if you don't do your homework, she would say, in real life, this is going to get you fired at a job. And it wasn't with humor that the student wrote it. She said that the student said that they were all nervous and scared, and you put some fear in them. So that is cool. And even just in the past hour, sitting here at the table with Ms. Ziak and how she interacts with the students from Coronado High School, you can feel that compassion, as well as she's challenging them to take AP classes and push toward excelling. So with that, Ms. Ziak, would you please come up, and so we can present you your Diamond Award. And before I hand it over, you know, everyone has had teachers in their lives, and you have those teachers and you think about, but then you have those teachers that you never forget. And I'm sure for Ms. Ziak, when she became a teacher, she started out in social work. She was not new to service. It's part of who she was. And when she graduated college, she became a social worker. She was in AmeriCorps. She was in City Year, which I never knew about, but she put on the red bomber jacket and is out there serving in communities. And when she became a teacher, she really knew it was what she wanted to do. So I love that you have, this is your second career that you chose, not really that far into your career life that you knew you wanted to serve. So thank you. This is incredible.
Awesome. Whew. Hi, everybody. Give me just 45 minutes to figure out how to work this thing. Teaching is improvising constantly. Wow. Well, thank you again for all of the kind words. I'd like to definitely give a huge shout out to this committee, to the club in general as a whole, and to Mr. Givens for this amazing celebration, and most importantly for giving me just a little bit of a break from teaching Shakespeare for a few hours. I do teach freshmen and sophomores, and for some reason I scheduled Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth in the same month, so pray for me, and them too, sorry y'all. When a group of administrators came into my classroom to give me this award on a Monday at 10 a.m., I certainly did not expect it to be an award. Rewatching the videos that were taken and posted of me receiving this, I just still laugh because I was so caught off guard by the entire situation. There's a lot of me going, ha ha ha. Oh my gosh, thank you. If any of you saw it, I promise I am more personable and outgoing than that. I think I even asked to give Bart a hug. Sorry, Bart. But that's a lot of what teaching is. It is being caught off guard and improvising, and of course, the best part, being able to laugh through any situation. While I am still in disbelief that after only 2 years in this district, I am receiving an award like this, I do believe it is that laughter exactly that made students choose my name and write things that made me cry in those nominations. We hear time and time again, of course, we've heard it here just a few times today even, that teaching is a really tough profession, and it truly is. But what educators don't talk about enough, and people don't talk about enough when they're referring to education, is the capacity for joy that we have within our classroom communities. And I'd like to talk about that specific thing today. I heard it mentioned earlier over there as well, joy. Right now in education, we're in an era where spending hours and hours during our nights and weekends to grade and plan rigorous lessons is the norm. A time when academic achievement and assessment scores take precedence over everything else. And we try to carry that stress for our students. We internalize it deeply. A time when we only have so many weeks to cram in so much learning. And we as educators are internalizing all of this. Last year, 23% of teachers left their schools. When we break that down to just new teachers, within their first year of teaching in 2021, 44.5% of teachers turned over their position. As business people, you know that if you saw these numbers in your respective positions, you would know that something was wrong, gravely wrong, and you would create a plan to affect change. Yet, in the larger spectrum of education, not a lot is being offered or differed in how we support teachers around the country. What needs to change is that we must bring joy back to education. Before I was a teacher, like it was mentioned, I was a social worker for Cuyahoga County in Cleveland, Ohio. Not Columbus, not the Ohio State, sorry. But I'm in the District 11 now, so cut me some slack. In this position, I really did see families at their lowest, families who wanted more but couldn't make ends meet, and families who resorted to solutions that you and I would never even have to consider. It was there that I did decide to become a teacher, to try and intervene in children's lives and bring hope for 8 hours a day into a life that they deserve to enjoy. I applied to a selective program called Teach for America, that's under the AmeriCorps spectrum, and I directed them to place me in the area in the entire country of highest need. They accepted me and put me in Pueblo, Colorado. I was there for 6 years, and in that time I was able to meet the most incredible and most resilient students that I have ever and will ever encounter. They taught me everything that I know about showing up every day and giving your all, despite the circumstances of your life. It seems counterintuitive to address laughter and joy before test scores, test prep, and rigor, but you cannot have one without the other. Students will not rise to meet expectations if they don't feel loved and comfortable. So we have to start every year, every day, every class period with embracing and cultivating that joy, and by coming together as a community. Joy and community have many different faces in the classroom. It is the teenagers who admittedly express their joy in ways the rest of us have yet to understand. Like my students, Evan, Cameron, and Law, who yell, "Happy birthday!" every time they see me in the hallway. My birthday is in July. Other times it's a student like Aliana over here who comes into my classroom every single day, every single class period, on breaks, and every single passing, just to pop in and say, "Can I borrow a book?" She's read every single book that I have. I'm bringing them from home. I'm having my friends donate them. Sometimes joy is Leilani sending me an email when I have a sub saying, "Guess what? I'm working really hard. Harder than all of my peers for sure. I hope you're back soon." Or maybe it's students like Libby, who, when I asked if her last name was Polish, like mine, said, "Oh, no, it's Gutowski." The whole class laughed until we cried. Honestly, teenagers have taught me that sometimes joy is just sending obscure Shrek memes from the internet to each other. That's okay too. Joy in students comes pretty easily. Joy in educators is what's harder to harness. It can be hard for us to stop in our tracks and laugh, either at ourselves or with our students. At the beginning of this school year, I took some Animal Farm packets home. Teachers have to tell these little anecdotes. To grade, and I have a little orange cat. Her name is Pierogi. She's very feisty. And she decided that those were hers, and she absolutely annihilated about 6 of them. And how often do you get to say that the cat ate your homework? I could have laughed at this, but all I could think about was having to contact home, to have to tell parents, to have them think less of me, to say, "Hey, Dakota, my cat ate your homework." And then they wonder, who let this buffoon teach? But do you know what happened? Her parents thought it was hysterical. It's a running joke in our classroom now. When a student isn't super confident in the work that they submit, rather than panic and go into shutdown mode, instead they say, "Can your cat eat this one too?" We're all just fun, goofy humans at the end of the day. So why do we fight this? Because education has become less about relationships and more about results. Of course, most educators already know this goes hand in hand. When we create these relationships with students, we let them know that learning doesn't have to be a chore, but a joy that should be embraced. When we have autonomy to plan and make our classroom our own, like I do at Coronado, the kids can feel my passion in my text, or in a text that I'm reading. They can feel the love through the classroom environment. They can see an open door and hear laughter and know that they're a safe space. Teachers have to be supported to feel joy, to ensure that moments of struggle are met with those beautiful aha moments that we hear so much about. Moments like sadness and despair must be met with moments of laughter and goofiness. That is not only how we model love, but also resilience. To say, yeah, it is hard work. It's always going to be hard work. You'll get fired at your job for this. I don't remember saying that, so that's pretty funny. But to also say after, you are loved. I've got your back. And you'll come out of these tasks eventually with such a feeling of accomplishment that it's going to stay with you forever. That is why we get into teaching. We believe in the power of young people, and young people need and deserve joy. I say all of this because I know that leading with love, with glee, with humor first, leads to amazing things. My freshmen and sophomores blew their recent benchmark tests out of the water. That's STAR testing. Some of the best in the district. They sat down and gave it their all. You have never seen 15-year-olds sit down and focus like this. And that's because they wanted to be impressive. They want to be resilient for the teachers that push them in a way that is still human. This award is really a reflection of the trust my team had in me that let me feel autonomy and, most importantly, feel the joy of having a work family. My own family is entirely in Ohio. My brother is out here visiting. But to have students and people surrounding you is incredible. I'm celebrating also today with my two students who we've met now, Eliana and Leilani, who are both perfect examples of holding yourself accountable and holding yourself to high expectations and still spreading positivity and cheer. Rotary members, for those of you that are asking how you can support educators, just let me say that a little appreciation goes a long way. We live in a time and place where even Teacher of the Year will always struggle to be able to afford a home in Colorado, where teachers often live paycheck to paycheck, and where we turn on the TV and hear that teachers shouldn't complain so much because we have 2 months off. That's when we work our second jobs. Joke's on them. Still, we persevere because it's what we love, aiming to create joyful classroom communities every single day. My mom, Janet, our mom, Janet, was a special education teacher for the majority of her career, and like Bart, she really influenced me in so many ways. She did everything that I do now as a single mother of 2 while putting herself through graduate school, and she never let us see her financial or school-related stress so that my brother and I would continue to feel supported and loved unconditionally. I'd like to dedicate this to her. In addition to asking how our community supports educators, I'd like to ask more importantly how we support our youth. Students today are facing more challenges than ever before, from inside and outside of school. Even when they show up with smiles on their faces, there is so much that we know nothing about. It doesn't matter how involved we are as educators, there is so much that we can't control. So within the specter of our classroom, that joy is critical. Thus, I'd like to dedicate this also to 2 of the most incredible students I've ever had, who are no longer with us. Their legacy lives on because they taught me all I know about being silly and goofy and joyful in the classroom in the face of adversity. So this is also for Deegan Glenn and Braxton Wardlow. Thank you again so much. Thank you to the Rotary Club and the committee, and most of all to my students. I'm looking at you 2 as the representatives, but I know that when I look at you, you represent 8 years of having students who are just as incredible as you 2. I promise to live up to this award for the rest of my career, and I promise, even if there are tears in my eyes, I wrote that in here because I knew I'd be crying, that I will be spreading joy and love the entire time. Thank you so much.
Now it's my pleasure to recognize Aaron Anfeld. He is a 10th grade English teacher at Doherty High School. He currently volunteers with Young Life, and his education is a Bachelor of Arts in English from Wheaton College and a Master of Arts in Teaching from Wheaton College. Mr. Anfeld has taught at Rampart High School for 3 years, Valencia, Venezuela International School for 3 years, and Doherty High School for 20 years. When asked how he felt about receiving the award, He said, "Receiving this award is yet another reminder of how grateful I am that God has put me in a setting where I'm surrounded by so many incredible colleagues, students, and stories." I wanted to read some comments that the students that voted for him wrote. They're all pretty amazing. Let's see here. Mr. Onfeld is always a light to other students in the classroom, and you can tell that he cares so much about each and every one of us. He gets to know the class and students on a personal level every year and keeps those relationships. I've never seen him upset or negative in any way. Even when he is flustered, he never snaps or blames his feelings on someone else. He always treats everyone with equity and creates an amazing atmosphere in his classroom. When I was in his pre-AP English class last year, he adapted his teaching technique for different students' individual needs and had excellent communication skills. Mr. Onfeld taught me very valuable and memorable life lessons. He teaches each and every one in his classes how important it is to notice the little things and listen to life. As he always says, he taught me how to be patient with people and respect them no matter how much you disagree with them or their beliefs. He really taught me how to stop and smell the roses and enjoy each and every little pleasure of life. I always look forward to his class, seeing him in the halls. I believe that Mr. Onfeld deserves this award 100%. And then I have another one that I was going to bring up on my phone that I thought was really good too. Similar. He says, "I remember sophomore year, I was in his class and he really stressed his mantra of listening to life, the idea that all sorts of cool things happen around us and that our classmates have a lot to contribute to the world. If we pay attention, it's something he always asks us whenever he sees any present or past students. Hey, how are you doing? And we always respond, listening to life. It really changed the way I looked at the school around me and helped our class be closer together." And then with that, I would like to present the Diamond Award to Mr. Onfeld.
Is this luncheon not incredible? This is such a special celebration, and all the people and having conversation around the table, it's just really special. And the food, how about the food? How about a round of applause for the food? About this time, I'd be eating SpaghettiOs and crackers. And so I'm very thankful. You're looking at a very thankful man. Not just because I'm not eating SpaghettiOs and crackers, but also because I'm surrounded by a lot of incredible people. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to acknowledge some of those people. I know that we introduced people just a little while ago, but I want to say a couple of things about these people. First of all, Bart Givens and Jessica Wise and Tina Dewey, and the rest of the committee that put this together, thank you for your efforts. Thank you for honoring educators year after year and giving them a voice in our community. It is powerful, and we receive it, and thank you for it. I want to say congratulations to Ms. Ziak. Pretty cool. Thank you for your words up here about joy. And I also want to say thank you to the staff I work with at Doherty High School. Incredible people, great leaders, selfless people. I want to be more like them. I want to emulate them. They're basically my family, and I've been there at Doherty for 20 years, and it's because of them that I've stayed there for so long. I also want to thank Trevor Needham, who's here right now. He's one of those staff members. He is the principal, one of the principals there. And Trevor, in 30 years of teaching, I've worked with a lot of principals, and you're right up there at the top. Trevor was my student also. But he's right up there at the top. And it's because of his grace and his humility, you model what it means to be a great leader. And I love working for you. And I want to thank you. Oh, yeah, we can. I also want to acknowledge my students that I get to hang out with every day. And one of them's right here, Zach. These kids, as Ms. Ziak knows, these kids inspire us big time. Their bravery to be vulnerable in the classroom and to share their thoughts and discussions, and also, especially this year, kindness that I've seen so much. It's so beautiful. It moves me to tears watching the way that you guys love each other. And Zach, I want to say to you specifically, your enthusiasm and your thoughtfulness with your peers, it blows me away. There's so many days where I was just having a rough time, a rough day, and I watch you in the way that you deal with people, and it rescues me from my old man grumpiness, big time, big time. So thank you, Zach. I also want to thank my mom and dad who are here, Arnie and Lois Onfelt. I appreciate them. Of course, they're here. They're always present. They're always showing up. Thank you for teaching me the value of community and the power of stories, and for showing me what it looks like to really love people well. Your influence is felt in my classroom, whether my students know it or not. Your influence is felt in my classroom every day. And my family, the rest of my family's over here. My sister who's wearing blue and green, and Charlotte who's here, and Carrie who's here, my brother who's here earlier, and Joy, my daughter over here. I look at you guys and I think of talks around the table. I think of Spring Canyon. I think of walks through Germany. I think of making music videos. I think of talking about Beanie Boos on the bed late at night before bed. You guys have taught me about life. You've taught me how to live, and you've reminded me that I'm not alone, and I appreciate you guys so much too. And my wife, I didn't forget her. My wife, who's right over here next to Trevor, thank you for saying yes to me 26 years ago on a bridge behind Broadmoor Elementary School, even though I'm a messy person. And thank you for listening to me as we walk around Cottonwood Creek, listening to me grumble about hard classes and hard emails, and for celebrating with me the goodness of God over and over again. You are my best friend and my greatest support, and I love you very much. Yep. And I also want to thank God, the author of my story, who chose me, who loves me, who decided that it was a good idea to put me in a setting surrounded by hundreds of teenagers. Although I didn't think it was a good idea at the time when I first started being an introvert, but it worked out pretty well after 28 years. So yeah, I'm thankful to God. Anything good that happens in my classroom, anything good that my students say about me is because of the good that he's done in my life. So I'm thankful to God and what he's done in my life. So do you mind if I tell you a story? Can I tell you guys a story? Okay. So I brought a penny. There's a penny right here. It's an important symbol for this story I'm about to tell you. Annie Dillard wrote a book called Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. And in that book, she talks about pennies being the symbol of the little things in life that we should appreciate. Things like a muskrat kit paddling across the water, or a bird singing in a tree, or sunlight coming through your window. All these little things that we should appreciate that we can take for granted. We can pass by them like little pennies on the ground. And she says we need to pick those things up and appreciate them. We need to value those things. And so we read this passage at the beginning of every year. I read this passage with my students. And then I tell them, go home now, and I want you to get a picture of something that's little that you value in your life, that you appreciate in your life. And so they all go home, and they bring back their pictures a couple days later. And then I said, does anyone want to share their pictures? And kids will share a picture of dental floss. They'll share a picture of a tree in the backyard, or a mouth guard for football, or water, all these things that they appreciate. And one year in one of my classes, a girl named Callie held up a picture of herself when she was 5. And I was thinking, this is interesting. I've never had this before. And she says, this is a picture of me before the accident. And when she said that, we all knew what she was talking about, because she had this giant scar down the side of her face, the right side of her face, where it was clear that she had been burned badly. Her skin kind of wrinkled along the side of her face, and she had her hair down covering it so people wouldn't see it, but everybody could see it. And when she said she had the accident, we were all just completely quiet, wondering what she's going to say, because we didn't know the story. And she told us about being a little girl and walking through the kitchen and hitting a cord, and then this cord spilled all this oil on top of her face when she tripped over the cord. And doctors tried to do what they could to repair the damage, but they couldn't make her look the way that she did before the accident. So here she is in high school, and she said, I've been bullied. She said there was one teacher that said that I scared the kids. And then privately, she told me that a few years after that accident, her dad left her. She had been grieving and broken and hurting for a long time. And I told her, Callie, thank you for having the courage to take off the mask and just be real with us in this class right now? I mentioned courage earlier, and I get to see that kind of courage all the time. And the class applauded, and she said, "You're welcome." And then a few weeks later, we're talking about prepositional phrases and how they interact with grammar. And I have this assignment where kids are writing paragraphs where they have to have 5 prepositional phrases with 5 images and 5 sentences. And they have to describe one thing, a person's face. And I said, I'm going to pass around a hat, and there's all the students' names in the hat, and you're going to draw a name from the hat, and you're going to describe one of your peers' faces in this classroom. And I do this every year. And I wasn't really thinking about Callie. And so I'm walking around the room, and I'm passing around the names. Everybody's drawing names. And I said, don't tell anybody who you got. Don't tell anybody what name you have. And then they all got their names. And they find out who they're going to write about, whose face they're going to write about. And I said, now here's the rules. You have to have the 5 images and the 5 prepositional phrases, 5 sentences, and you have to be positive, describing this person's face. And you have to be flowery. It has to be like a Shakespearean sonnet. It has to be very exaggerated, using hyperbole. And so you can say, oh, the hair runs down the shoulders like a waterfall coming down a rocky cliff, or the eyes are like pools of chocolate, brown pools of chocolate. You have to be positive. Maybe the smile lights up the room, those kind of things. You can't say the zit on the forehead is like Mount Vesuvius. You can't say your cheeks are puffy like marshmallows coming, you can't do that stuff. So you got to be positive. So all the kids are like, okay, and nobody's saying anything, and they're all kind of taking sneaky glances at their peers to try to figure out what the person looks like and remind themselves. And they start working on it, and then I send them home to finish it. And one girl named Amaya, she had missed that class. She was absent that day, and so she came in the next day, and she said, Mr. Onfeld, I'm sorry I missed class. What is the assignment? What did I miss? And I told her about the assignment. And I said, you can just pick someone. Just pick someone in the class to write about. She said, okay. So a few days later, we all come back together with our paragraphs. And I tell the students, hey, does anybody want to read theirs out loud in front of the class and get extra credit? And of course, the kids are terrified. There's no way they're going to read paragraphs about people's faces, using this exaggerated imagery, except for a few bold ones. And so these few bold ones come up for the extra credit, and they read about the eyes that shine like the sun, and the hair that rolls down the shoulders like a cascading waterfall, and the smile that lights up the room. And the funny thing is there's some giggles because there's some guys, writing about girls in the class, and there's some girls writing about guys in the class, and it gets really awkward, which is hilarious to watch teenagers be awkward. And so we're all laughing and having a good time, and then it kind of finishes off. And I feel like it's over, it's finished, and we had a good time, and so we're going to move on. I'm transitioning to something else, and then Amaya's hand went up. And she was the one I said you could pick anybody you want to write about in the class. So she said, Mr. Onfeld, can I share my story? And I said, sure, Amaya, come on up. So Amaya comes up to the front of the room, and she stands behind the podium, and she starts to describe this girl who has eyes that are warm and welcoming, who has a smile that's disarming, who has a beauty that draws people in. And then she mentions the scar. And when she mentioned the scar, again, the class goes completely quiet. And I'm terrified as a teacher because I'm thinking, where is she going to go with this? And we all know she's talking about Callie. So she says this scar represents the strength in her life and her perseverance to face hard things and keep moving forward, not giving up. She said the scar is a part of her beauty. And when she finished describing the beautiful face that included the beauty of the scar, the entire class erupted in applause. And I looked over at Callie, and Callie's eyes are filled with tears. And then Callie's hand goes up, and I say, yes, Callie, and she says, do you mind if I get a picture of that paragraph? I want to take a picture of it because I want to show my mom. And Amaya walks up, and Callie takes a picture with her phone, and the whole class is going crazy, applauding and cheering. And then they both sit back down. And I will never forget that day. Of course I'll never forget that day. So why do I tell this story? One reason is because it's beautiful. As we both know, we get to see beauty all the time in our schools. And in public schools that a lot of times get bad raps. We get to see this beauty, the courage of these kids, and this kindness. For Callie to take off her mask and be real with us like that in front of 30 teenagers, oh my goodness. Most adults would not do that. And for Amaya to choose to write about Callie, and then not only that, but to get up and to speak and to read her paragraph in front of all these kids, all of her peers. I couldn't do that in high school, and I don't think I could do that now because I'd be too afraid of what if I say something wrong? What if I embarrass Callie in front of all these students? The courage it took to do that is incredible to me. But here's the thing about Amaya. Amaya is a there you are kind of person. She says, there you are, not here I am. She's wrapped up with the people around her and celebrating those people and lifting them up. That's who Amaya is. She saw that moment and that assignment specifically as an opportunity to love somebody well, to let a girl know that she's cared about and that she has value. And she took that opportunity. And she made her day. She made her entire year probably. I want to be a teacher like that. I want to be a teacher who sees those students that walk into my classroom in room 212 and celebrates the value that they have and lifts them up and gets them excited about the gifts that they're just beginning to discover. That's the man I want to be. I want to be a here, there you are person, not a here I am kind of person. I want to lift them up. Now, here's the thing that you'll find out about me, and you probably already noticed, and that is that I'm a man who believes in God, and faith is important to me. And I believe that Callie specifically had this broken heart, had this difficulty inside of her that she was struggling with, all this woundedness, and God saw that. He saw that woundedness, and he brought Amaya along so that she could see herself differently. Not through the eyes of bullies, and not through the eyes of a teacher who said that she scared the kids, and not through the eyes of a dad who left, but through the eyes of a God who I believe wanted her to know that she's beautiful, and she's brave, and she's loved. Now I have a secret for you. I think that God wants to use all of us to change the way we see ourselves. Because if we're honest and we took off our masks like Callie, we would all have scars and woundedness and lies that we believe that we could talk about. We may not have scars like Callie did on the outside, but we got scars on the inside. We got pain there that we deal with. We're all like this penny on the ground, scuffed up, dirty, feeling like there's no value. And I want to ask you how incredible it would be if we all took a moment to stop and stoop down and pick up the pennies around us, those people around us that we take for granted, and dusted them off and valued them like Amaya did with Callie. Just imagine what kind of world this would be. Thank you.
Thank you all. I need to talk a little louder. Thank you all. You can be seated. I know we're running a little behind on time. Bart, do you have a few more things to say?
No, just we need to
Get the checks. Absolutely. We won't forget the checks. I'm guessing these go to?
I'll get those later.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. We'll get you guys your checks.
Yeah. Come on up.
And I would say if you guys can stay after for a few pictures, that would be great too. But I will go ahead and adjourn our meeting for today. So thank you all for being here, and thank both of you.